Hello, and welcome to this presentation on personality disorders, a theoretical perspective. I'm Sonia Moon, and I'll be analysing the following article for you today. Let's start by defining personality as the set of enduring behavioural and mental traits that distinguish us as humans. Our personality is what makes us unique, and according to longitudinal research, the predictive power of personality for important life events was at least equivalent to predictors such as socioeconomic status and cognitive ability. So when we're defining personality that's become disordered, we're talking about experiences and behaviours that differ from societal norms and expectations. The prevalence of all personality disorders is estimated at around 12% of the general population, with those diagnosed experiencing significant distress or disability. The research indicates that those diagnosed tend to suffer more with negative life events, including arrest and incarceration, unemployment, and unstable interpersonal relationships. In elucidating these negative and positive life events, research has supported the use of the five-factor model, or FFM, for distinguishing personality traits. Many studies of non-clinical samples have shown the five-factor model traits to influence life events in meaningful ways. In general, neuroticism appears to predict negative life events, extroversion and conscientiousness predict positive life events, and openness to experience predicts both positive and negative life events. But how does the five-factor model generalize to predict life events in individuals with a personality disorder? That's what the following study will attempt to explain. 4 personality disorders were selected for study. They included schizotypal, borderline, avoidant, and obsessive-compulsive. The present study had 2 aims. First, it was tested whether the FFM personality traits were associated with positive and negative life events among individuals with one of the 4 listed personality disorders, with the prediction that findings will parallel non-disordered community samples. Second, it was tested whether the FFM personality traits were associated with life events similarly across the 4 personality disorders, with the prediction that they would be. The sample was recruited through treatment clinics and advertisements and consisted of 682 participants, 62% of whom were women, and all of whom met the diagnostic criteria for at least one of the 4 personality disorders. Life events were assessed across a range of domains using a modified version of an empirically validated scale, with mean positive and negative life events averaged and calculated. A one-way analysis of variance comparing groups on type of experience found the negative life events outweighed the positive, with the bipolar group enduring the highest number of negative life experiences, whilst the avoidant group experienced the least negative life events. Considering positive events, the obsessive-compulsive group experienced the most, whilst the other 3 disorders reported similarly, with the schizotypal group experiencing the least amount of positive life events. Regarding the five-factor model and life events, among the aggregated disorders, negative life events were associated with neuroticism, whilst positive events were associated with extroversion, openness, and conscientiousness. Positive life events were also negatively associated with neuroticism. Among the disaggregated personality disordered groups, the same pattern was found among the bipolar group, with extroversion and openness being positively correlated with positive life events, and neuroticism being positively correlated with negative life events. The avoidant group also showed openness and extroversion being positively correlated with positive events. The schizotypal group showed a positive association between openness and positive experience, and the obsessive-compulsive group showed a positive association between extroversion and positive experiences. The results of this study indicate that non-clinical personality traits can be used to help understand the lives of individuals with disordered personality. It was predicted that the five-factor model would correlate with negative and positive life events, and that these associations would be similar to those found among non-clinical samples. This hypothesis was partially supported. Among all personality disorders combined, neuroticism was positively associated with negative life experience, whereas extroversion, openness, and conscientiousness were positively associated with positive life experiences. Overall, this pattern replicates findings from community samples. Although the bipolar group showed findings consistent with non-clinical samples, there was a distinct absence of any significant association between neuroticism and negative life experience amongst the other personality disordered groups. This may infer that the bipolar pathology, largely characterized by high levels of neuroticism, may amplify the destructive influence of this trait on life events. In contrast with the bipolar group, results from the schizotypal group appear to mute the influence of ordinary personality traits. Amongst the disorders studied, the schizotypal group was the only one to not show a significant positive correlation between extroversion and positive experience. We may infer that the social isolation that characterizes schizotypal individuals inhibits the potential for personality traits to influence life events. This interpretation is consistent with a similar pattern of results among the avoidant group. Indeed, both groups reported a positive correlation between openness and positive life experiences, suggesting that willingness to engage with the world may improve prospects for these groups that are prone to social isolation. Several limitations of this research warrant discussion. First, the sample was constrained to only 4 personality disorders. As such, it was not possible to examine relationships across the entire spectrum of disorders. Second, negative and positive life experiences were analysed as broad categories. Thus, findings show a less discriminating picture than if specific domains were examined separately. Third, participants' perceptions of life events were not assessed. Rather, life events consistently rated as negative or positive were examined, excluding the more ambiguous experiences. Finally, the assessment of the FFM relied on the NEO-PI, which is designed as a measure of non-clinical traits. More recently developed measures that assess maladaptive variants of FFM traits in the context of personality disorders have demonstrated incremental validity over NEO-PI traits for important outcomes. Despite these limitations, the present research has several implications. First, the determination of the extent to which the FFM explains life events among personality disordered groups may contribute to an understanding of the factors that lead to undesirable outcomes among these individuals. Further, as these findings are relatively congruent with prior research from non-clinical populations, it may be appropriate to extrapolate research from community samples in understanding outcomes in personality disordered groups. Taken together, the results of this study may lead us to reconsider personality disorders not as disordered personality as such, but rather as stable traits of regular personality with periodically expressed symptomatic behaviours.